So, Britain and France initiated the greatest joke against humanity yesterday when they decided unilaterally, in the presence of some people who they thought would praise them for this brazen act, they decided to recognize a state of Palestine. Now, this is my second video on this subject. As I said in my first video, that the state of Palestine was declared in 1988, and these same powers refused to recognize Palestine at the time because they said it did not meet the requirements of a convention which was called the Montevideo Convention of 1933. And according to that convention, if a state is to be recognized, it has to have certain things. It has to have recognized borders, it has to have settled population, and it has to have an effective government. As I said in my previous video, all those conditions were not met in 1988 according to these states. So that state which was declared did not merit recognition. Agreed. One cannot disagree with that, because the Palestinian territories were absolutely under Israeli occupation, and the leadership had been in exile throughout its existence. The Palestinian leadership had been in exile from 1958 onward, when the PLO was formed in 1964-65, and then when the PLO became active after the defeat, after the comprehensive defeat of the Arab armies in 1967, and then again after the defeat of Egypt in 1973. But in a sense, Egypt won that war too, because its objectives, which were very selfish, were in any case met. So how has that changed now? That is the important question. This question begs the answer. How are things different now from 1988? Is there a settled population? Well, the population was most settled in Gaza and the West Bank in 1987 and 1988 than it is today. The people are moving from one corner to the other. They are leaving their homes not knowing where to go. It's a long road, an endless movement of people, of a concourse of people who don't know where they are going. Mostly they are going to their deaths. So how have things changed exactly? They haven't changed. So what's the point? Is there an effective government? The government, first and foremost, the field commanders and the field government in Gaza, which has no authority, was killed in November 2023, and its top leaders, including Dr. Jamila Shanti, the widow of Abdul Raisi, Aziz Al-Rantisi, who was the right-hand man of Sheikh Ibrahim, the founder of Hamas. Both of them were killed within 8 weeks of each other in 2004, and then his wife, a member of the Politburo, an institution inspired by the Russian Communist Party, because the highest body of the Russian Communist Party was also called the Politburo. They were all killed. The main leadership was in Qatar, and the leadership, of course, is not there. So the same situation that existed in 1988 exists today. The leadership in those days was in Algeria. The leadership today is in Qatar. So what is so different? All the conditions related to the Montevideo Declaration or the Montevideo Convention still exists today. Then what was the need to recognize? The need to recognize was this: these powers wanted to hide their own crimes. They have been sending weapons to Israel, spare parts of planes like the F-35 Joint Strike Fighter, which was given to Israel to bomb and destroy any trace of life. And of course, if we are talking about Gaza, there is no such thing. There can never be, there has never been any such thing as a precision strike in Gaza. Gaza is one of the most thickly populated places on earth. I refuse to believe that before October 7, Gaza was an open-air prison. It was meant to be an open-air prison. But the people of Gaza, they worked hard, they studied, They forged ahead. They moved forward in technology. Some of the people were invited to universities like Oxford to give talks, not about their own misery, but about what they had achieved in life and the contributions that they had made to the body of knowledge. So they were very determined to throw to the four winds the propaganda created by the French and the Europeans that Palestinians were basically human animals. And that is what the occupiers did not like. They wanted to beat them back to the same level. They wanted to beat them back to the Stone Age. And that is where the European powers became so helpful to them. The Netherlands, Holland, a country which has no enmity towards the Palestinians apparently. They volunteered to sell spare parts of planes that were going into Gaza to bomb the civilian population. And they were being sent just to exterminate the civilian population, because that is the sin of the Gazans, that they exist. That's the sin of the Palestinians, that they exist. So why did they do that? Why did they create this absolute facade, these histrionics, that they are going to recognize a Palestinian state? Because they want to switch attention, change the focus of the world. By the way, the focus of the world is an irrelevance. There is no relevance of such things. In the real world, only power matters. In the real world, there is no substitute to inherent strength. That is all that matters in the real world. So, but if there ever was a chance to document the crimes for a chimerical, for something that you will only have in a utopian world, a place where these crimes could be brought for prosecution in front of human beings who believe in justice. In such an assumed utopian world, maybe some evidences would have been collected, and the conscience of some people in the world may have been pricked at least. But these powers want to hide their own crimes, their own part in this wholesale extermination of human beings. I don't use the word genocide. I don't use the word genocide because I believe that the Arabs are as much Semites as anybody else. They were called Semites. The Jews were called Semites by the Europeans because they were the only people of the Abrahamic race that managed to reach Europe at that time. That's why they were called the Semites. Otherwise, the Arabs are just as Semitic people as anybody else. So I wouldn't call it genocide, because this is not genocide. This is worse. This is a wholesale extermination of one side of humanity. People who have the same genes, they have the same genes. This is not genocide. This is not genocide at all. This is extermination of a people who have the same genes but who happen to be different because they come from a different branch of the Abrahamic family. And one branch of the Abrahamic family, which carries the same genes as the other branch, wants to make sure that the other branch of the family does not share in anything else. So these states are playing the cruel game of playing hide and seek, using water with a thirsty person in a desert. I mean, that's the only analogy I can come up with. And you know what? One country has not spoken much, but it has been as responsible for this misery as any other nation. And that country, of course, is Russia. Russia has benefited the most from this extermination, because all the weapons that were supposed to be sent to Ukraine to fight the Russian army, much of that aid was diverted to the Middle East, to this extermination, this wholesale extermination, which some people call genocide, and that country has benefited more. Don't forget, when Israel was created, the first country that sent military aid to fight the 7 nations that were trying to invade Israel, the first country that sent military aid was Russia. So everybody has a part in this. That's the point. Everybody has played a part in this. In this drama, there are no heroes. There are only villains. And I feel so bad when people say, something like, 4 legs good, 2 legs bad. The West is bad and the East is good. There is no such division anymore, West and East. And there never was. And there never was. Communism and anti-communism were logical outcomes of unbridled capitalism, which of course came from Calvinism, which of course came from the Protestant ethic, which of course came from Christianity itself. You keep going back, you ultimately go to Calvinism, and Max Weber has discussed this really well. So, but now it is plain for everybody to see that everybody has a part to play. Everybody in this drama has done their part to aggravate the situation. We can only pray for a better tomorrow.